This is Leafs Morning Take with Nick Alberga and Jay Rosehill.
Now we've got a fight started here right off the bat with Rosehill.
30 minutes of live, nonstop Leafs talk starts now.
Well, at the very least, the Leafs aren't the only perennial contender having a tough time to start this season. Welcome to the Wednesday edition of Leafs Morning Take. It's Nick Alberga and Jay Rosehill. Jay, I don't know if you've seen this around the league. There's been a lot of fishy endings and some underdogs coming out big early on. What's going on with you, bud?
Yeah, I'm good, dude. I'm good. I've noticed that some hot shots have had some tough starts, and some guys that were a little bit under the radar are coming out fire. And so, I mean, I think that's good. That's a good thing, and get the divisions all kind of evened up, and everyone's going to start dogfighting, and it's not really status quo, which is kind of exciting if you ask me.
It is, and we'll hop around the Atlantic Division coming up in a couple moments, just take you behind the scenes, what's going on so far. It's a week officially into this regular season, if you can believe it. A reminder that we're interactive as per usual, live on Twitter, live on YouTube right now. If you want to get in on the chat, going down below here on YouTube, you can. Your concerns, your comments early on. We're just 4 games into this season, and for me, the sky is falling, but as mentioned, other perennial contenders have been losing. How about Philadelphia beating Tampa last night? The Edmonton Oilers losing to the Buffalo Sabres. It just seems like early on in the season, Rosie, especially from a net mining point of view, you just have no clue what you're going to get, eh?
Yeah, so far it's been that way. The Oilers are just getting behind the 8 ball every single game, it seems like. Terrible starts, obviously, and then their big boys need to come and try to claw back and get them into games. They've done that, 3 times now at least, and Vancouver is blowing leads like crazy. I feel like Toronto's had, it's not even that bad of a start, 2-2, but their glaring mistake is losing to the Coyotes at home, which is something that they would love to go back and have a redo on. But yeah, some funny stuff happened in the league, but it's all good watching and it's good to talk about.
Thanks so much for bringing that up, by the way. I had parked it. I'd moved on to the Dallas Stars game Thursday night, but you brought it back up in that loss to the Arizona Coyotes that I'll continue to reference. And I don't know if you've seen on social media, the heat has been on for my tweet about the Leafs losing to an ECHL team, but I still feel the same way. I just think this is a journey to the Stanley Cup playoffs for this organization specifically, and they've really disappointed me early on. But again, granted, Rosie, there are 78 games left in the regular season, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like you said, it's only been a week. It just feels like longer. And when you spend a ton of your time and energy dissecting every tiny thing about an organization that you feel passionate about, which is probably the definition of Leafs Twitter, and that's what you're going to get. You're going to get sky is falling attitudes. You're going to get drastic takes left, right, and center. You're going to want people doing something that's, from an actuality standpoint would be pretty insane at this point in time. And they're 2 points out of number 1 in the Atlantic right now. So the sky's not falling.
Thank you, Rosie. I appreciate that. Speaking of passion, go Raptors. They kick off their season tonight against the Cleveland Cavaliers. You want to watch a good Toronto team, watch the Toronto Raptors. No, I'm kidding. The Leafs are a phenomenal regular season team. And again, the jury is out for a lot of teams going into the Stanley Cup playoffs. A reminder to subscribe, smash that like button. Again, leave us a review. Visit theleafsnation.com for the very latest happening here in Leafs Nation. As the Maple Leafs get set to host the Dallas Stars, the capper of a 4-game homestand coming up tomorrow night. With that in mind, let's jump over the boards. All right, this is a Rosie-initiated topic to bat leadoff here as we get set for the DSs in Major League Baseball. Major League postseason's outrageously good, by the way. But it's early. What's your assessment of Auston Matthews through 4 games, Rosie?
I wanted to talk about this just to shine some light on something. I am not worried about Auston Matthews. Has he had the greatest start? No. Is that a huge deal? No, it's not ideal, but the sky's not falling on Auston Matthews. But my point is, I look around and I see so many fire Sheldon Keefe tweets out there, and they said he hasn't got it done. This is too slow of a start. And then no one's talking about Auston Matthews at all. And to me, when I watch the games, for his caliber of player and for what he's able to provide and what he's capable of, his talent level and his ability, I'm hardly seeing him out there. he's not being Auston Matthews. And again, it's only 4 games into the season, but people are like, well, we know what Matthews can do, so he gets a pass. Well, what can
Yeah.
Auston Matthews? Yeah, Sheldon Keefe can win 115 points in a regular season. Have either of them gotten it into the playoffs? No, they haven't. So why does he get a pass? He's there, 11, what the hell is he making right now? $11.5 million average. And he's going to go up here in a couple of years, maybe sign something next year. And he's going to be one of the biggest boys in the NHL. He's a high talent. He needs to be held a little bit responsible if you're going to be throwing your arms up about their start right now. And no one seems to be doing that. And I mean, you look at Tavares, he's every time there's a big goal that we need to get back in a game or to get a lead or anything like that, he's been on it so far. Marner's been carrying the puck and making plays. And are they all penetrating? Are they all adding up to points and stuff? Nobody's out there, and he's very noticeable. And Nylander's put up some big goals when the team needs it too. So those boys are going, and you're missing your biggest piece of the puzzle. So if people are yelling fire Keefe, I just can't imagine the mayhem that would happen if they fired Keefe right now. There's just not a chance it would do anything good. It's 4 games into the season. I'm not worried about Matthews, but if you're going to start bitching about this team and talking about firing a coach, how have you not even talked about their stud not playing up to potential at all?
Respectfully, Rosie, I will disagree with your stance on the Stanley Cup playoffs. I think at the very least, Auston Matthews has been noticeable in the last 2 cup runs, regardless of losing in 7 games. He throws his body around. I think, as you mentioned, that's the one thing we've noticed early on in this season. He has 14 hits through 4 games. By the way, his career high came last year where he had 67 hits in 73 games. As he's changing the way he plays, I think this is more so the Auston Matthews that we've seen in the Stanley Cup playoffs using the body. I mean, is it sustainable over an 82-game stretch? Very, very unlikely. Like, I like to correlate it to Alex Ovechkin early on in his career where he played more of that physical game. He still does, but not to the extent where he's throwing his body on the line on a nightly basis. I just think you're trying to create space if you're a guy like Auston Matthews, and I have to give teams some credit. They've been playing him really, really well defensively so far. Having said that, recent history has suggested that Matthews is a notorious slow starter, at least in the last couple seasons. You look at his numbers. He had 1 in his first 6 last year, goes on to score 59 and 67. Thank you very much. And 1 in his first 4 back 2 seasons ago. So am I worried about Auston Matthews offensively? Probably not, but I do agree across the board. And Sheldon Keefe did call the elite players out the other night. They have to be better. And again, I disagree. I think the one guy to look at is Mitch Marner. I just don't think he's been good enough so far this season.
Yeah, well, going back to Matthews' play, like for him to be having like career high hits and for him to be molding his game and be playing playoff style hockey right now, what is that bringing? Like, have you noticed that? Has that been changing games? Is he just this dominant, you look at guys that can throw their body around like McKinnon in Colorado, a top talent in the league who can also bang and be a big truck. I don't really think Austin's that player. I've never thought I would say like, we don't need that from you, but his hits aren't changing a game or making a big impact. And if they're taking away from his ability to make plays and be, that guy that can just see the ice and destroy a team when he's on his best, if they're taken away from that, then we don't need those hits, Austin. We'll get other guys to do that. You just do your thing and play your game. But like you said, if he's a notorious slow starter last year, I think he's coming off an injury, so rightfully so. But you think he'd be fired up and ready to rock so far, and he's got 1 point in the 4 games, and like you said, it's only 4 games, and I'm not worried about him. I'm not panicking about him. I'm just saying if you're pointing to certain things on why the Leafs haven't had a 4-0 start, how do you not shed a little bit of light on his start?
I get what you're saying, but I would point the fingers in other direction before I get to Auston Matthews, who again is coming off 60 goals in 73 games. Like, he's the least of my concerns. And I think to your point, to start this entire conversation, he gets the benefit of the doubt because he's the best goal scorer in the NHL and a top, 5 player at the very least in this league. He's going to get going. To me, across the board, the bottom 6 hasn't been good enough. Defensively, they've been a train wreck for the most part, and the goaltending's been okay. Eric Shalgren makes 15 saves the other night. We'll see Ilya Samsonov very, very likely, to play against the Dallas Stars coming up on Thursday. So at the very least, I think that's the consensus on Auston Matthews, but it's only an amount of time before this guy gets cooking. And I might even hit the anytime goal tomorrow night because I think he's supremely due. 1 goal, 1 assist in 4 games, 21 shots on goal, and as mentioned, 14 hits. Not sure if you saw this yesterday, and it's great news, music to the ears of the Toronto Maple Leafs, Rosie, but the salary cap could increase significantly. And with that, $4 to $4.5 million going into next season, NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman said Tuesday that the escrow balance is likely to be paid off by the players at the end of the season. And if this happens, the salary cap will increase by around $4 million next summer. This is massive for the Maple Leafs, isn't it?
Yeah, that would be huge. I mean, obviously, right now their cap crunch is like to start their season where they $4. I can't believe how many teams have
Yeah.
gotten rate against it. Like, and they weren't even the closest to the cap, which is unbelievable. $4. How do you do that with all the millions and tens of millions getting thrown around?
Brandon
Pretty
Pridham,
outrageous.
capologist.
That's right. Everyone seems to hire these guys, and that's their whole job is crunching these numbers and these possibilities and these shuffling these contracts around, which it's pretty cool on one hand, for sure. And I mean, when you're up against the cap and you find out you're going to get a bunch of breathing room, that's a huge deal. And I don't know if 4 to 4.5 is going to solve all their problems when you look at the guys that need to re-sign here coming up very soon. Guys that are flat out done their contracts. You got to qualify guys, UFAs, and then you got guys that are just able to re-sign long term, like a Matthews that we were talking about, and see what happens there. But obviously, you got to look at your long term projections. What is this going to look like 5 years down the road, 4 years down the road? There's just so much that go into it. It's obvious that you do need a professional guy to do a full time job on that. But anytime that cap's going up, that's obviously a huge positive thing. And, hopefully those owners have got their pockets lined enough with a lot of their shitty teams down south, and they can be happy that the players' paychecks have been keeping their bank accounts full, and they'll give them a little piece of the crumbs, I guess, eh?
Classic player comment right there. Not that I'm on any side of the ledger, by the way, but that is a classic player comment right now. 10 plus pending free agents for the Leafs. I think short term, it has to be a win, especially when you look at Michael Bunting, UFA to B, coming off a contract that pays $950. Granted, again, he has been in Sheldon Keefe's doghouse, and we should preface by saying a lot can change early on in the season. But I think when you look at Bunting individually, I think he's proven a lot for this team, and I think he is worthy of a big fat new contract extension. I'm not saying $6.5 million per season, but he's going to get an upgrade. So any penny that you can get from that salary cap going up, the Leafs have to be ecstatic about. Goes to Bunting. I think Kerfoot's going to be in that conversation. He's a pending UFA, might have just priced himself out of this market to begin with. David Kamp's another guy that I think so far I've been impressed. Like, not so much this season, but I think at the value of his contract, he's been a really, really good ad for this team. And then don't forget Ilya Samsonov. Again, small sample size, and we'll be saying that a lot through the first month or so of this show. It's early. But Ilya Samsonov is another guy who will need a new contract. So to reallocate that money anywhere you can, I think is a W for this team. So great news if the salary cap does go up, Rosie.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, any room you'll take it, right? But
Yeah.
you look at a Bunting who's like their first line player, who's putting up big points and making a huge impact on games for $950,000. That's the kind of stuff that you need to have if you're going to have depth, and if you're going to make a team that's going to be a winner against a salary cap. You need to get those guys, and when those guys start to produce for you, which you want them to do, they're going to renew their contract and they're going to be worth a lot more, and you're not going to be able to hold on to all of them. So I think, maybe Bunting moves on. The bottom line is he's playing with Marner and Matthews the last few years. That's a dream job, right? You got the guys coming up that made careers for themselves playing with Sidney Crosby, made careers for themselves playing with Connor McDavid, and those guys make it really easy on you, and you look like a superstar playing with them. So a Bunting, you need a guy like that to step in and have a huge impact with a small contract, but don't expect all these guys to still be here and to re-sign for what they're going to be asking for. It's going to be a shakeup, no doubt. It always is, but you got to find those guys that can do it again for a smaller hit on the cap.
Yeah, stressing the shakeup is the biggest thing there, because if this team doesn't get past the first round, I think somebody significant is going to go out the door anyway. So it's going to be a moot point. But the salary cap going up is great news for the Leafs.
Agreed.
Rosie, let's look now at the Atlantic Division. Again, we're just a week into the regular season, but we've seen some upsets. How weird is it to see the Tampa Bay Lightning at the bottom of the standings? They're 1-3 in the first 4 games, but as we know, they do love to pace themselves. They lose to Philadelphia. You played for the Flyers. What an incredible story. Again, it's early on, but John Tortorella's done a great job with them, hasn't he?
Yeah, so far, man, he's just kind of isolated himself in there. And I saw, I don't know if it was on TV or on Instagram or something, but like kind of a speech that he made about like, I'm going to be honest with you. I want you to be honest with me. We're going to do this
It's
together.
just
I love this shit. I love this. I hope you love it. Like, let's go. I can't be happy enough. I'm going to be hard on you. You can be hard on me. Just be honest. Like when you get a guy saying that and it's not just the normal, all right, line it up here. We're going to do some X's and O's and stuff. And you're just kind of like, do another day at the rink. When you got a guy like that who's, I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of Tortorella's style. I mean, I've been to many
yeah.
camps with him, and he's on the megaphone while we're running around the track at SFU and in 100% humidity, and he's just screaming through the megaphone, and guys are blowing up their groins before they even touch a puck at camp. I can't stand that shit, but he has got a pretty wicked resume. Jack Adams Award winner, Stanley Cup winner. And that team's playing for him right now. You know, they needed a shake up and no one expected a lot out of them. And they've come out to a really hot start. So all you can do is say good for those guys. And, you know, we'll see if they keep it going. But that was a huge win the other night against Tampa Bay. And yeah, when you're looking at it right now, it doesn't look normal. But if you look, the top, 6 teams are a win away from being in first place. So it's very tight, and it is a small sample size. But no, the Lightning certainly aren't looking normal sitting down at the very bottom of the Atlantic right now.
It's funny you look at Torts too. Like he's the one coach. If there's a coach in this league who has a shelf life, it's John Tortorella, and it spans about 2 years. And after that, the players are like, "Fuck this shit, I'm done with this guy." But it's happened so many times. But the resume speaks for itself. Like I think initially there will be a boost to the Philadelphia Flyers when you look specifically again at this Atlantic. Great start for the Boston Bruins. The Ottawa Senators beat them in the home opener. Again, it's been organized chaos or lack thereof around this league from an offensive point of view. I hope you're hitting those overs. Ottawa came to play finally following that loss to the Leafs on Saturday. And the Florida Panthers, again, we didn't know what to expect with this team. They make a blockbuster trade in the offseason, but Aaron Ekblad just can't stay healthy. Ends up on LTIR today. That's huge news for the Florida Panthers, Rosie.
Yeah, that's devastating. I mean, to lose Uyghur and Huberdeau and Johnny Hockey down there. He's not my favorite player in the world by any means, but he is good and he's had a good start. But Ekblad's a huge piece of that locker room. So not sure how long he's going to be out, but just the fact that he's going to be out there at least a month is not a great sign for them, and a big loss for sure.
Yeah, I think I saw a grade 2 groin strain, something like that for Aaron Ekblad. Don't quote me on that, but I think we were looking at 4 to 6, maybe 6 to 8 weeks, and that's a tough loss. He can't stay healthy. You know, it's an unfortunate thing about the Florida Panthers and more specifically Aaron Ekblad. They do have the depth. It's just a much different team. The Buffalo Sabres are another team hot out of the gates. This division is going to be really intriguing. So to your point, the sky is not falling in Leafland. Again, when you look across this division, Rosie, it's going to look a lot different than it is right now, right?
Yeah, these teams, it's going to be fun to watch over the next month or so. All these logos you're looking at are just going to be bouncing up and down and up and down. And
Jumbled.
look,
Yeah.
look how tight it is. Look how tight it is. I mean, 6 points to 4 points in the top 6 guys. I mean, that's one single night of of playing hockey. So by no means is this a set thing, and you know you got to wait till Christmas, and I think until you really start to see how things are shaking out and how teams are doing, and what guys gel level is. So yeah, interesting to check it out, and it's just nice to see how guys are getting out of the gates right now, but by no means is this going to look the same here in a little while.
I thought our bar was American Thanksgiving. That's where we like to correlate all the data across this league if you're going to make the Stanley Cup playoffs or not. But again, the Leafs are looking ahead of the Dallas Stars. We'll get to that coming up a bit later on. We'll get interactive with the chat, some comments here early on. But it's time to get to the wrap up, brought to you by our friends at PointsBet Canada. I hope you're tailing me right now, Rosie, because I am on fire. I was on the Ottawa Senators on Monday night. They cashed a couple dicey, hairy moments for me, but they got the win. That's all that matters. I'm going to keep it in Canada. Again, the Leafs are not playing tonight. I'm going to look to the Winnipeg Jets, who are facing off against the Colorado Avalanche. Give me Blake Wheeler, an anytime point for Blake Wheeler. So that's over 0.5 points. You're looking at around a value of minus 125. All in all, the Perfetti, Dubois, Wheeler line has been really quiet. It seems like Mark Scheifele's provided pretty much all the offense so far for the Winnipeg Jets through a couple games. But Wheeler's numbers in his career against Colorado, 38 games, 20 goals, 32 assists, 52 points. And, oh, yeah, he was just stripped of his captaincy.
Whoa. That is a light show against a team of that caliber, man. Good pick. Yeah, to go and crunch those numbers and see how he does against each team. That just seems to happen all the time. Like his former players against their old teams always seem to have a night and put up points and man, has he put up a lot of points against that team. So I love that. And like you said, you're hot. So I'm going to ride that pony as well and see what we can get done here. But not a bad play at all for a point tonight.
This is my official heat check, by the way. My official heat check. I was going to go as far as to say that Winnipeg wins against Colorado, but I couldn't get to that level. So I'm going to look at least a goal or a point here from Blake Wheeler, just because I think Colorado is susceptible to offense from time to time. They like to play that open brand. It led me to a question too. Like, did you have a building where you just felt so good in wherever you played in your career, whether it be the American Hockey League or the NHL, where you hopped in from the morning skate, where you had your cup of coffee, that you always seem to feel it in?
Yeah, certain buildings you seem to have that. Whether
Yeah.
you had a good game or whether it's a team that just fits your style or something like that, you get in there and you just feel comfortable and you just have good vibes in there basically. And I mean, sometimes that's all it comes down to is just where your head's at, how positive you're feeling. It can be the complete opposite in some barns depending on what's happened to you there in your career before. But definitely, like you say, look at the points and look at how some guys just show up in certain buildings. Obviously, that's a thing for high talent NHLers too, and they can go in there and put the hammer down, and you can almost rely on that. And if you know those inside tracks, I mean, I don't think all the algorithms in Vegas are catching all those things. So sometimes you can try to outsmart them, and yeah, you've been doing pretty good so far. But I also like to live bet, like see how the game goes as far as
Yeah.
the Jets tonight against Colorado. See what kind of start it has. See if you can get a vibe for who's going, and if you can catch something happen. Like yesterday, I put some on the Flames after they went down a little bit because I
Mhm.
thought they were firing and it just wasn't going in. They got a couple bad breaks and some penalties, and then all of a sudden they're down. And I hammered them at a massive plus, and they ended up winning the game. And sometimes I like to just watch and see what's going on with the game and see if the numbers are a little bit skewed, and you can take advantage of that.
I'm so happy hockey's back, man. Just a week into this, but I'm a fanatic. Like, I love the sport so much. I'm the guy watching games at 10:30 at night. I just love it, and it's so great to have it back. Not so much from perspective. Yeah, that's the cherry on top to be able to be excited about that if you're winning at least, but just having the game back. You talk about the Calgary Flames. I've been so impressed with that team early on. There's just a lot of teams who I'm really, really intrigued and fascinated with, and I like to see the new blood in the league, like new teams be successful. Like, it was great to see Colorado win last year. Like, I love these types of stories.
Yeah, it's fun. I like that too. When sometimes it gets a little stagnant when some teams get studly
Yeah.
and they're just kind of dominating their division year after year, and you're seeing the same kind of Eastern Conference final vibe and the same kind of thing going on in the West, and gets a little outdated. And then when you start shaking things up, and we got some new teams in the league now all of a sudden the last handful of years, and
Hmm.
seeing who's playing for them and who's making a name for themselves, it's definitely fun. I mean, the other night when I sat down, a couple of buddies came over, watched the Leafs game, and then the Battle of Alberta right after that. And I mean, yeah, I cranked probably too many beers that night, but what a
Yeah, I
blast
was gonna
that was.
say,
We've been
how many pops can you smash in a 2.5 hour sitting? Like, I hope it was that game against Arizona, because I would probably be at like a 2-4 through about 35 minutes.
Yeah, I wasn't feeling good there. I think that's when I really started to put him down because I was not in a good place, and I was worried about the pod on Monday and what what was going to be happening over Twitter over the weekend. But no, let's just say I was moving a little slow at my kids' game there on Sunday morning.
Ooh, that's the worst feeling when you're hungover the next day and you got to be somewhere. Like, I play beer league puck on Sunday afternoons. I don't know what's possessed me to do that, but when I just get after it, and I mean after it on a Saturday night, and you're out till 3, 4, 5, God knows where you're at, who you're with, but it's just the worst feeling when you have to get on the ice at like 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. But on this, like, aside from that, it's great for your mentality to get your day going on Sunday, man. It's just a tough feeling overall.
Try coaching U7 kids and having to wipe their
Oh,
nose and listen to them bitch at an 8:15 a.m. game. It's a little rough. I got to be smarter. I'm getting too old for that shit.
you're a grit grinder, my man. We love to be interactive with everybody here, live on Twitter, live on YouTube. If you got a comment, a concern on the season, a question for us, you want answered on air, bring it. Flynn McCoy writes in, the Oilers' concession prices are the single-handedly paying off the escrow right now. So there's your response, Rosie. I knew it was
I,
coming.
s- I saw that, dude. It was like high-end restaurant prices. It's like a hot dog, a bag of chips,
Don't get me
and a
started on that
Diet
shit, dude.
Coke for like $56. I was like, how do you even stand at the till and reach for your wallet for that? That's outrageous.
So I have some buddies who love to get after it. And with that, like you go to an NHL game and you want to put away a couple drinks, have a bit of a feed, you're looking at like no problem 350 bucks on top of the money you spent for the ticket, Rosie. Like I think it's absurd.
That's too much. You think about it, at the end of the day, it's just a night out, right? It's an
Yeah.
experience. You're going to watch your favorite team. You're in the barn. You go to that new rink in Edmonton, and it's beautiful. You're watching McDavid. It's a cool thing. But
Yeah.
like, wouldn't it be nice if more people could experience that? You can't just drop $700, and that's just for you. You want to bring your kid. Most people have more than one kid. Your wife can't come now. If you want to bring the family to a game, like that's a vacation, and that's too
Yeah.
much, And I don't know what. Again, these a lot of money, and if their team's losing money, the players will just make them whole again with escrow, and it's just a lot of money's getting it's getting too high for people to go to the games, and it's frustrating. But I think that's been the gripe for years and years and years, right? It's not cheap to do that kind of stuff, and seeing those prices the other day on Twitter for Edmonton, that's outrageous. Me and my brother actually in like 04 when the Flames were going to the finals, I was drafted by Tampa, so they gave me some
Yeah.
tickets to the game 6, and I got the tickets from the hotel, went to the Saddle Dome, took off my shirt that I was wearing to say thank you sir for the tickets, and I had my Flames shirt on. So me and my brother were doing that, and we snuck I think we snuck a two or a Mickey. Each had a
Love
Mickey
it.
or something
Love it.
in our box just to go, and then we got caught pouring it in the old got caught pouring in the Diet Coke and almost got booted right before overtime. But luckily we sweet talked the girl. But you'd think people would almost be tempted to do that in their 50s, not when they're 18 years
Guaranteed
old.
they do.
Why wouldn't you, man? It's
Guaranteed.
outrageous.
No, there's
I don't
flasks
blame them.
out there, like fake purses, fake anything that a lot of females have that they'll bring in alcohol and males too. Like I just think we have gotten to that level where you have to adapt on the fly, and to want to have that night to really bring it, you've got to spend, in excess of 200, 300 bucks. Like Flynn writes in, 2 burgers, 2 pops, 2 small bags of chips, $55. The one thing I will say about Alberta, 50-50 is outrageous out there, isn't it?
Oh, it was crazy there. The COVID, man, like you'd hear over the years, a buddy's at, so and so was at the Flames game, so and so went up to Edmonton, won the 50-50, and you win $15,000, and it's like, can you imagine? That's so cool. That's awesome. Good for him. Now this is blowing 6 figures out the door, and it's just getting huge. And I think the teams are like, whoa, we can put this thing online instead of having a guy walking around with a bucket in the concourse. You put it online, get with the times, and man, people are putting it out there. But I think it's just that greedy gambling Alberta boy in everybody, and that wants to get a piece of it, I guess.
I've always wondered how that works out if you win the 50-50 at a big sporting event. Like if I'm somebody, I'm trying to spear the guy, take the ticket and get the cash out. But that's just me. I'm just a piece of shit. Quickly, just your quick thoughts as we set up Thursday, Rosie, and the matchup against the Dallas Stars to wrap here.
Yeah, it's a big game for the Leafs, I think. They're playing a really good team. They got a really good goaltender, and that team's been hot. They have come out of the gates good. So it wouldn't be as big of a pressure packed, we need a win here game if they didn't do what they did there on that game against Arizona. But it's a good test for them. And I think that if they come out and, I'd like to see Auston Matthews dominate the majority of the game. And if we can clean some things up defensively, I think Samsonov has shown nothing but being quite solid, and I expect that again. So they can get a win off those guys. It'll be a big win, and Leafland can kind of chill out for a couple of nights.
Yeah, maybe one night, and then you're back on the horse taking on the Winnipeg Jets on the road coming up on Saturday. But yeah, that's probably the one thing I'm looking at, and the underlying storyline of the potential of Robertson versus Robertson, right? We expect Nick Robertson to make his season debut on the heels of an amazing preseason. Granted, it was the preseason, but I would expect him to be in the top 6. And I think if you were to ask me right now, maybe it's a guy like Pierre Engvall who leaves the lineup. I just don't think he's done anything in the first couple games to at least stay in this lineup, Rosie. I don't know if you feel the same way about Engvall so far.
Yeah, not a whole lot. Maybe the first game or two, I just noticed the puck on his stick here and there, and he's kind of involved in the play, and then just completely fallen off. And you look up and down the lineup here, and that's kind of the obvious yank, right? If you're gonna put someone who's gonna put some minutes in, again, I'd like to see someone on that fourth line getting shaken up a little bit. Someone who can, going back to the Matthews thing. Why is he hitting so much? Is he getting hits because he's colliding with people? Are people coming near him to hit him? Is he's taking too much abuse? And I think I have the reason why that is, and it starts with the fourth line toughness. But maybe something in there can get changed up as well. But I definitely think Robertson will be chucked in there somewhere, and pretty cool to play against your brother for your opening game there. And I imagine his parents will be looking at flights to get over for that one if that does happen.
And undoubtedly, we'll dive into that storyline coming up tomorrow, and that's where we'll reconvene. Great job today, Rosie.
Right on, man. Good chat. And yeah, let's see what happens tomorrow night. We need one, boys.
There you have it, Jay Rosehill. I'm Nick Alberga. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll talk tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Take care.